of Turkish Airlines Flight 1951 presents a baffling paradox. A state-of-the-art passenger airliner falling from the sky in a manner typically associated with small, inexperienced pilots. An aerodynamic stall on final approach. On February 25, 2009, this Boeing 737-800 was moments from landing at Amsterdam Schiphol Airport when it simply dropped, crashing into a field just a mile and a half short of the runway. Welcome to our YouTube channel. Please subscribe now, Red Dot Aviation, and share your thoughts in comment sections. The event was not just a tragedy that killed 9 people and injured scores more, but a profound puzzle that would expose a dangerous gap between human intuition and complex automation. On a cold, damp morning on February 25, 2009, Turkish Airlines Flight 1951 began its descent into Amsterdam Schiphol Airport. The Boeing 737-800, a symbol of modern aviation, was minutes from completing a routine flight from Istanbul. In the cockpit were 3 pilots, the captain, a relatively inexperienced first officer for whom this was a new route, and a safety pilot in the jump seat to assist. Unbeknownst to them, a critical flaw was already present. The captain's radio altimeter, which measures the plane's height above the ground, was malfunctioning, stubbornly reading a nonsensical -8 feet regardless of their actual altitude. While the first officer's instrument worked fine, this single faulty sensor set the stage for catastrophe. The chain of failure began when air traffic control, managing the busy airspace, instructed the plane to make a slam-dunk approach, a steeper descent to intercept the landing path from above. The pilots, using the autopilot, commanded a rapid descent. It was at this moment that the aircraft's automation, relying on the captain's broken altimeter, made a fatal miscalculation. The system believed the plane was already skimming just feet above the runway, about to land. Following its programming, it automatically reduced engine thrust to idle to execute the gentle flare before touchdown. But the plane was not about to land. It was still 2,000 feet in the air. The engines spooled down to a whisper as the aircraft began to slow dangerously. The pilots, their attention divided by the high workload approach and the routine landing checklist, did not immediately recognize the automation's error. They likely assumed the loss of thrust was a part of the steep descent they had commanded. The autopilot, trying to maintain the correct glide path with the engines at idle, could only do one thing. It raised the plane's nose higher and higher, bleeding off precious speed. Inside the cabin, the descent felt normal until the very last seconds. Then, a violent rattling shook the control column, the stick shaker, a desperate warning of an imminent stall. The pilots snapped into action. The first officer pushed the throttles forward and lowered the nose, but then the captain announced he was taking control. In the brief moment the first officer relinquished the controls, the autopilot re-engaged, once again pulling the thrust back to idle. The captain's final, frantic push on the throttles came too late. With insufficient altitude to recover, the airliner stalled and plummeted into the muddy field below. The subsequent investigation revealed that Boeing had been aware of this very flaw since 2004, with over a dozen similar incidents reported. In each previous case, alert pilots had caught the error and disconnected the autopilot. A software patch existed, but it only applied to newer aircraft, and the plane involved in this crash was not eligible. Boeing had deemed it a minor issue, believing pilots could easily override it. The crash of Flight 1951 proved this assumption catastrophically wrong. highlighting a design that placed too much faith in human vigilance to correct a silent system failure. The story took a darker turn with allegations that Boeing, along with U.S. authorities, pressured the Dutch Safety Board during its investigation to downplay the role of the aircraft's design and shift more blame onto the pilot's shoulders. This accusation of corporate influence cast a long shadow, suggesting a priority of deflecting responsibility over uncovering the full truth. The tragedy of Flight 1951 thus became more than an accident. It became a stark lesson in the complex and sometimes deadly interplay between technology, human factors, and corporate accountability. A lesson that, tragically, would seem eerily familiar a decade later. Thank you for watching this complete video. Please like and subscribe our YouTube channel, Red Dot Aviation.